Good morning. Now it's working. Welcome to Mount Diablo Unitarian Church. I'm Undine, she, Annie. We're starting with the gathering song, 108, My Life Flows On. Please stand, or please rise and body or spirit for gathering song 108, My Life Flows On.
Good morning. Welcome to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and my pronouns are she and her. For those of you visiting us this morning, welcome. We're glad you've chosen to spend part of your week here with us in the sanctuary, on our live stream, and we have a few cold souls out on the patio, so sending them warmth and love today. We will work on the inside space for the winter. And we want to say a special welcome back. If you are back on campus for the first time in a while, we are glad to have you here, and we hope you'll stay and join us for lots of things that are going on here after the service, including our coffee hour, which will be down in our patio, and also our Justice Sunday. So if you're online, we will have a virtual coffee hour, which is held right after service for about 15 minutes, just so you can say hello to somebody. So we hope you'll join us there as well. If you're visiting, please take a moment and fill out a visitor's card for us, either virtually or at the rainbow table after the service. We are really grateful to have everyone here. And I want to say that today we have some important things going on. Our first Justice Sunday with our book sale is happening today, and I hope you'll stay and be part of that. And we also have our wonderful student chaplain Travis and Lynn Basquette have been working for many, many hours on our training that we'll have today at 1 o'clock, our Radical Welcome training. So we hope you will join us for that. And we also have today, this afternoon at 5, our young adult Friendsgiving. So if you are interested in that, you can see Marina. And if she's running around, Ives actually knows about it too. So Ives will be glad to talk to you as well. So we are glad to have you here, and welcome to this beloved community.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jana Contreras, a member of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she and her. Welcome to our service. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming faith community. We begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other and to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. This is a time when many communicable things are around, and our expectation is that those who are inside are symptom-free. Big shout out to all who participated in our Bid for Love 2023. Thank you so much. And a special, yes, I'm going to see A Christmas Carol. I don't know about you. And a special shout out and thank you to Sharon Solstice, Elsie Mills, Joe Gelinas, Peggy Kroll, and Janice Davis. And welcome. And welcome. It's good to be together.
There are so many ways to connect that I've neglected to mention two I really wanted to say this morning. And one is, we hope that you will join us for our coffee house, where our special musical guest this week will be our own Brett Carson. So we're really grateful about that. And the other is that this next weekend we also have the opportunity to have to attend a play interview with an icon, which features our own Gene Wilcox. So that's also something we really want to do. So as we exchange greetings, I invite us to say, I am glad to connect with you today.
All right, as we're coming back to gathering, I'd love to invite those from the fidget table and the young and young at heart forwards. And we will come together for a moment of meditation. As we're waiting for this transition, I invite you to take some time to ground. If rhythmic movement helps you to center, I invite you to do that. Or take some moment to pay attention to the movement of your breath as it moves in and out of your body. I invite you to call to mind some things from the past, drawing from what you remember from earlier today. Maybe thoughts, maybe feelings arise with those memories. And I welcome you just to hold some space for any thoughts or emotions that come up with your memory of earlier today. Now let's stretch even further and call to mind some things from the distant past, from what might feel like long ago. And to hold some space for any thoughts or emotions that come up with those memories. Now, call to mind some things from the future. Maybe what you're planning or imagining to be happening in your life later today. And you can go even further. Call to mind some things from the distant future. What you imagine happening many days or weeks or even months from now. I welcome you to hold some space for any thoughts or emotions that come up with that imagining. Now I invite you to let all of that go. Watch it emptying and dispersing with your mind's eye. Release your attention for now from the past and the future. For these next few moments, invite your attention to be fully soaked up, fully immersed in this present moment, as if you and the present you are nestled in are the entirety of existence. Feel the sensation of the present, its familiar qualities, its infinite expansion. I invite you to witness the present moment, how it is always there with you, always around you, always in you. Even when you are imagining the future or remembering the past, it happens here, in this now. Your pasts and futures are lived in this infinite present moment. It is where we are anchored. If you feel comfortable, acknowledge with gratitude the now and here for its constant presence. It is many things, and it is always with you. May you remember the present as a spacious and consistent partner in rough times, especially when the future or past pull you off center too drastically. May you find a center in the here and the now that anchors you nourishingly. Thank you. I don't know if Michael is here, but I'll start up. There you are. You did great. And it just light the chalice first.
I can share one truth with you. I'm very glad to be joining your church. And I was thinking about truth this morning as I flipped through different media, and it occurred to me that in a very partisan, loud world, truth isn't often in the teller. It's found with the discerning listener.
Travis.
Hey, turkey, what you got on your head?
A bathing cap.
Bathing cap.
I'm going swimming.
Huh. I didn't know turkeys could swim.
That's the thing. I didn't either until I was reading the Gobbler Social and saw it there.
Shot there. Yes, sirree.
All these years I've been missing out. As soon as I can figure out this new equipment, I'm going to go right down to the reservoir and dive in.
Diving in? Wait, is that a good idea?
My question exactly. Turkey, you can't believe everything you read, and if you're wrong, you could be, well, all wet.
It was right there in yellow and white.
Yellow and white. Hold up again. Do you mean black and white?
The letters on Gobbler Social are in yellow ink.
To look like gold?
Better to look like corn.
Yellow and white.
Right. Whatever color doesn't mean that it's truthful. Turkey, you should always check things out more than one way.
More than one way, definitely. At least 3.
At least 3.
At least 3.
Parrot, please, not now.
My side gig is fact-checking. Why do you think I'm always repeating everything?
Oh, repeating and verifying.
Turkey, not now.
I feel a bit confused. I can't tell what's right. I think I'll just go swimming.
Turkey, we want you to be sure that this is accurate. This thing about turkeys swimming, here on campus, we have never seen a turkey swimming.
No swimming, never.
Oh, I see why you're worried. I wasn't going to swim here, Falcon. That would be silly. We don't have a lake or a pond. I'm too big for the fountain, though I do appreciate the refreshing drinks.
Lakeless, poolless.
The point I was making, and sometimes these conversations do make me forget my own points, so I'm glad to go back to it, is that we should check out things more in more than one place.
But it was written in corn.
Written in corn. Falcon's right, Turkey. You need to check your facts in a couple of places.
Well, how would I do that?
Yes, Parrot. How would you recommend, since you are the fact checker?
Fact-checking.
Exactly. I'm asking you. How would you approach this?
And I'm answering. I would check the facts. Hold on. Rodney, can I borrow your phone?
Sure.
Or could you do it? My wingtips are a little big. Google silly turkey thinks he can swim.
Wait a minute. I think I'm insulted.
Insulted? What does it say?
Yes, please. I still have to figure out exactly how this bathing cap is going to work, and these goggles seem a little big. The fish are going to bust up laughing when they see me.
Well, let's see here. It's a source called Fly By Night Bird Lore. Never heard of them. And Fish for the Feathered. That sounds a little scary. Okay, here's National Geographic.
Ooh, what does that say?
Well, what do you know? What do you know? Here goes. Wild turkeys can fly short distances at 40 to 50 miles an hour. Wild turkeys can also run 12 miles an hour. And completing the triathlon, they are actually adept swimmers. They move through the water by tucking their wings in close and spreading their tails and kicking.
Great. Turkey, do you feel better? I feel better.
I feel better. Fact-checking complete.
Feel better? Are you kidding? Now I have to go home and figure out how to get those running shorts on, too. On these skinny legs, this is so stressful. Thanks for the help. I'm gotta fly or swim or run or whatever. Choices, so stressful. Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite you to sing our children and youth to their activities.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ives Humphreys. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm glad to serve as your worship associate today. We are now well into the holiday season, and as we all prepare for our family gatherings, let us also prepare our expectations for reality. For Brené Brown says, expectations are just resentments waiting to happen. Ever since my fiance Sydney and I became engaged last May, thank you. My family in New Jersey has been urging me to return home and introduce Sydney to all of the family. We invited my parents out here, but to no avail. So we paid them a visit 2 weeks ago that we will never forget. We booked our tickets a few weeks before. My parents said they would invite some family over, My brother and his girlfriend even came over from San Diego. A few days before, my mom emailed us restaurant menus. A nice meal at a restaurant. How pleasant. They tell us they'll host us at their newly bought second home on the Jersey Shore. What a breeze. On Friday morning, awake at 5 a.m., we take the screeching BART to SFO, spend the whole day traveling to New Jersey. My mom picks us up in Newark and drives us down to the shore. On the way down, we get to talking about the family reunion. Both sides of my family will be coming. They haven't come together in 7 years. What a great surprise. I asked what dishes will be served by the restaurant. She says, "Oh, actually, your father doesn't like the business practices of the restaurants, so we will cook for and host the 21 family members ourselves." Surprise! And I felt misled. Truth be told, she used the old bait and switch technique. But she said, we'll enjoy a day at the shore, an early Thanksgiving with family, and a night she'll put us up in a hotel with a hot tub to relax in. So the next night, after a day of swimming and boating on the tidal creek, chop chop, we are peeling and dicing apples for 2 apple betties. My mom lists the dozen other ingredients we will be preparing in the morning. At a younger age at this time, I would have become stuck and moody, stuck on the impression that my parents lied to us and were making us spend the majority of our precious vacation days preparing for a feast that I did not ask for in the first place. But I used our 4th principle. I chose a free and responsible search for truth and meaning in this challenging situation. The next morning, my brother, his girlfriend, and my dad rushed to North Jersey to cook that 16-pound turkey, the lasagna, the bean casserole, the gluten-free dishes, and many more. That morning, a Sunday morning, my mother, once a Roman Catholic, she now embraces my UU faith. She even reminds me of our 7 principles sometimes. Today, she focused on the 4th principle and sent me on a free and responsible search for half a dozen ingredients at the crowded grocery store. One of 5 grocery runs that day. We drove to North Jersey and hosted 21 relatives, including 2 96-year-old grandfathers. I felt so blessed. After many hours of preparing, we ate a delicious meal. We spent the rest of the night cleaning the community hall. My dad drove our weary bodies to the hotel that night. But truth be told, there was no hot tub. The beds, though, were oh so soft, and I slept very well. My parents and I, for that trip, had different expectations for that reunion, different perspectives. My truth was, I would have preferred to go to a restaurant and had everything taken care of. My parents, though, were excited that we were flying across the country and wanted us to see all of our family and share a home-cooked meal. This holiday season, let's learn to let go of expectations and accept the truth, the reality of the situations. May you all find that grace towards peace and joy. Come, let us worship together.
Please join us for the congregational song. Please rise in body of spirit for 34, Libertad, Liberty. Libertad no es despertar una mañana sin cadenas. Es algo más. Liberty is more than waking unchained. It is living in harmony with our neighbors, deciding together, working together for freedom of all.
Now is the time in our service where we come together to bear witness to those joys and sorrows that are too great for any one of us to hold alone. If you have written in our book of joys and sorrows today, please come forward to light candles as I read your entry. Tom Taylor is, is lighting a candle of joy. Complete joy. Please join him in celebrating his 64th birthday today at at Heroic Italian. That's Heroic Italian in Berkeley at 3 p.m. Let's play I Hope to See You There. Okay. Sharon Sobatta, Espy, and Delilah Estrada Sobatta are lighting a candle of hope for Anselmo Estrada, the paternal grandfather of Espy and Delilah, who is very ill. Bob Olson is lighting a wonderful celebratory candle. Diane Olson celebrated her 84th birthday last Wednesday. Her son Jeff and 14-year-old grandson visited to celebrate also. And I would just like to take a moment to invite all of our veterans who are with us to rise in body or in spirit, or to raise a hand, or to let us know in the chat. Regardless of our views on the use of war, let us take a moment to honor all who have served in this way. And now I'm asking Reverend Leslie to light two final candles. The first, representing all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts. And the second, a candle for this one imperfect but precious world, and our reminder that we are justice and love makers in it.
Please stay seated for the music meditation. 1054, let this be a house of peace. 1054, let this be a house of peace.
Let
This is the moment in our service when we center our hearts and minds collectively, creating that intentional space that allows us to connect with an aspect of life that is much bigger than any of us alone. Some call this moment of meditation, others focused intention, but today I invite you into the practice of communal prayer, which is ultimately a place for us to lay out our heart's deepest ask. Spirit of life, source of all that is good and sacred, we gather here today seeking guidance and strength as we work on what seems to be a long journey toward peace. In these upcoming months, we ask for courage to stand against injustice and the wisdom to promote understanding and compassion. Please guard us, guard our tongues as not to inflame the hate that is already so prevalent in this world, while still allowing us to find words to cry out against injustice. We take a moment right now to reflect on the peace or lack thereof in our own individual hearts. May each of us find solace in the stillness, allowing a reminder that together in spaces like this, we can feel that we are not alone. Let this thought calm our restless spirits and bring clarity to our minds. Help us find peace in our thoughts, actions, relationships. Help us know that true peace begins within. In this sacred space together, we extend our prayers beyond just ourselves and ask that these thoughts be carried out onto the wind, into our immediate neighborhoods and greater community. May we foster an environment of unity and respect, where diversity is celebrated and differences are embraced, rather than ignored or worse, used as emblems of hate. Grant us the strength to bridge divides, to listen with empathy, and to build bridges of understanding. And now, O Spirit, we lift our voices even higher, expanding our hearts and prayers for peace to reach the corners of the world. We acknowledge the pain and suffering that exists beyond our immediate surroundings. We pray for all who live amidst mind-numbing conflict and violence, for those who yearn for safety and security. Inspire all leaders and nations to seek peaceful resolution, replacing hostility with dialogue and understanding. Guide us, Spirit of life, as we work tirelessly for peace. Grant us the perseverance to overcome these challenges and strength to remain steadfast in its pursuit. May our actions be a reflection of our deepest values, and may our efforts sow seeds of peace that will blossom into a world free from fear and hatred. In the name of all that is holy, we offer our prayers and commitment of ourselves to this noble task, to creating more love in a peaceful world. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
My foes all Oh, wow. How fun. Good morning. My name is Janice Davis, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees, and I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. Our congregation's mission includes the words about seeking truth and working for justice. In our family, we rely on several sources for truth and news. We remain cheerleaders for journalists and newspapers, both local and national, worldwide. MSNBC commentators may join us for dinner, and local weather people for breakfast. Members of our family have delivered papers over several decades, participated in paper drives, if anybody knows what that is. You have to tie your papers in a little bundle, and then somebody comes around and picks them up. Anyway, nonetheless, we have also had mailed clippings of achievements, events, and obituaries sent back and forth from Colorado and Utah to Los Angeles and the Bay Area. It has been part of our family history. Also, we have a tradition that revolves around the Sunday comics, editorials, book review, and puzzles. We want to know the truth and what's happening in the world around us. Just as in the past, we appreciated the Whittier Daily News, Salt Lake Tribune, SF Chronicle, Long Beach Press Telegram, the Daily Californian, and the Denver Post, we now look forward to the New York Times, the Rossmore and La Miranda News, and of course, the Beacon. Last week, we had the big ask. Now is the time in our service for the regular ask that helps keep us informed and engaged and in important work. You can donate from your phone on the MDUU website, pushing the little Give Now button, or by putting your check in the baskets, which the ushers will now distribute. Here they come. Yay, you. Yeah. Now is the time that we get to dedicate the offering. If you will join me in reading the words on the screen. To the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Sobatta. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm very happy to be able to share perspective with you today. To say that the world is a tough place to navigate right now feels like an understatement. There are some 172,000 homeless or unhoused people in California alone, and that's more than any other state in the country. California has an incarceration rate of 549 per 100,000, which means that we lock up more people than any other democracy in the world. There's a war where more than 10,000 Palestinians and more than 1,000 Israelis have died in the last month alone. In my own family, my children's paternal grandfather is on life support in South San Francisco after enduring a series of strokes while in the hospital with nuanced symptoms. He was carrying the stress of falling months behind on rent, and like many Californians, living in the throes of housing insecurity, along with my children's paternal grandmother. This is the juxtaposition of the stats and the stories of the world that we live in. How do we solve these issues? The truth is complicated and it's nuanced. While living in this world and interviewing thousands of people, I found that the more I learn, the more questions that I have and the more nuance I see. As I've been covering everything from war to substance dependency to housing to the housing crisis, I haven't been able to stop thinking about an interview that I did while covering the Oakland Psychedelic Conference when I was voluntold by my editor at the East Bay Express to do so. I interviewed this man named Maurice Bird, and what he does for his job is he goes into the field in a homeless or unhoused encampment, depending on the person you're speaking to, and he sets up a chair and talks with people about their substance use using a harm reduction model. He says very clearly, like his main thing that he fights for is helping people. He wants to kill all binaries. He says there's not problem people and other people, but rather people with problems. And he tries to work with people. He doesn't make them use a one-size-fits-all approach, but rather tries to meet them where they are on their journey. And so he might ask, instead of telling them that they have to be all the way clean before they reintegrate with their families or having them challenge that narrative, he might look at, what does it look like to be sober enough to be with their families? And slowly but surely, using a harm reduction model, a lot of his clients will reduce or end their use altogether. While he's doing this work, he's talking with them about their ACEs, their adverse childhood experiences, because more than 75% of these people arrive in adulthood with them. And he does this because context matters. Since covering this story, my awareness of binaries and nuances have heightened, and I see binary language everywhere, including the last 3 days, I've gotten a poll in my text messaging saying, who are you more likely to vote for, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? And I'm looking, and I can see a binary that I'm not happy about. I would like there to be multiple parties and multiple options. And I think what does it mean when we have just a binary system in our politics and in the way that we receive our news and our headlines and the way that we think about things? I've been watching the way that in our own state, excuse me, I'm going to refer back to my notes for a second. And I also think that this gives us an opportunity to think about what happens when we hold our own lawmakers accountable, even the ones that we voted into office, and demand that they too see the nuanced truth. I've been thinking about this while looking at things in our own state, that the state is proposing to take care of housing insecurity and homelessness, for one example, through the construction of tiny homes. And there's a bouquet of well-meaning mental health measures. And I've been thinking about why the context matters and why it's important to be talking to the people that we're going to be benefiting from these programs as the programs are coming into effect. For one example, California is looking at building tiny homes to kind of solve the encampment process or the problem. What isn't necessarily taken into account is that people in encampments are there in part for the community. In the event that anyone who has a struggle with substance dependency moves into a home or an isolated place, it can be deadly if they're still struggling with a substance dependency and there's nobody to give them Narcan in the event of an overdose. And lastly, sometimes the idea of giving up the vast sky that's full of camp and belongings, or the camp that's full of belongings, isn't appealing. So some people, even though they're offered this option, might opt out. There's SB 326, the Mental Health Modernization Act, and there's a new one called SB 43, the Modernization of California's Conservatorship Program, which makes it easier for the state to conserve people struggling with mental health challenges or at risk for not being able to care for themselves. Now I'm going to tell you a story, now that I gave you the context. So in my building, there's this woman, a 62-year-old, who's a certified nursing assistant, and her name is Julia. She cares for an elderly, not very nice white woman whom I've watched verbally abuse most of her caretakers. The woman happens to have a nicotine addiction and doesn't like it, and she has a half a lung. She doesn't like it when they won't give her cigarettes. In another chapter of life, though, her caretaker, Julia, had experienced homelessness herself and substance dependency. She relied on programs like the Black Panthers Breakfast Program, the Healthy Babies Program, and her own mother to take care of her own children. Now, in this chapter of life, Julia's mother, whose name is Gaynell Hamilton, is conserved by the state of California. She's conserved because she's 85 years old, and when Gaynell was caring for her own mother and her late husband, and lost both of them as she was caring for them in the last stage of their life, she abandoned her house and went to live in a homeless encampment. And then she started bouncing around the state to visit all of her children, and nobody could keep track of her. And then they started to notice that something was wrong. It turns out that she has bipolar disorder, the same diagnosis that my late father had, and her children weren't equipped to take care of her. So then what they did is they agreed to conserve her so she could get the resources that she needed. And now the meds are ready, are in order, and she is stable mentally, but they're finding it really hard to unconserve or to get back guardianship of her mother. So I went with them to visit her, and on the day I went to visit Gaynell Hamilton, her son Robin walked in, and it was his very first day in the free world. He'd been incarcerated for the past decade. And the mom, Gaynell, started shaking, and she was saying, "I'm blessed." She said it over and over, and she kept hugging her baby boy, who's now in his 50s, and she's saying, "Now I'm ready to go home." She kept repeating this. Her daughter said, "Well, we're working on it, Mama, we're working on it." But the problem is the finish line keeps moving, and Gaynell has a finite amount of time in the world. So she's an example. This is an example of the nuanced truth and the ironies of the world. Well, this woman, Julia, is taking care of an elderly woman in Lafayette. Her own mother is conserved and not able to be cared for by her family members. I don't have the answers. I only have the problems and questions, and I'm going to leave you with a few more. So why is it that activists have started reciting the disability slogan, "Nothing about us without us," to lawmakers proposing one-size-fits-all solutions to homelessness and mental health measures in California? How will they work without the buy-in of people on the ground? Why in the United States, after a sentence has been served, do people continue to serve their time in the so-called free world when they carry the invisible asterisk of the criminal record with them when they apply for housing or jobs? And as I'll discuss in my perspectives column next week, you can read it in the East Bay Express, are California's well-meaning mental health and conservatorship ballot measures taking us in the right directions, or do they end up extending the intergenerational cycle of trauma and incarceration for Black, brown, and poor Californians? What would happen if we adjusted our approach to put an infrastructure of support for families on the front end? What would happen if we could accept that just as truth is nuanced, so are the solutions to any given problem? I invite you to keep this in mind when you watch, read, or listen to the news. Notice when words are being used or omitted, whose voices are included and whose are not. And if things seem a little too simple, look deeper. Do this while remembering Audre Lorde's quote, "There's no such thing as a single-issue struggle because we do not live single-issue lives." Thank you.
When I was a newspaper reporter in the local bureau of a capital city paper, I lived in fear up till 9:30 every night when I was the reporting. Why? Because my editor had to file stories at 9:30, so I was unlikely to get a call after that, a fact-checking call. There were no pleasantries on these calls, just a curt voice telling me that something was being fact-checked. He was so biting, my editor, that the reporters had made a verb out of his last name. And the verb meant something like slicing and dicing and reducing to nothing. We would ask each other, "Did you get," using the verb, "last night?" And we would share and commiserate. Now, I hope today that he's out there somewhere, plying his craft, because fact-checking seems like kind of a sacrament in the world in which we live today. I remember in 2015 or so when I first heard a public figure making bold claims that were much distant from the facts that I knew. I was shocked, but I was also okay with it. People will see through this, I thought. And then we had an election, and it became more prevalent. My fact-checking self kept saying, there, this will pass soon, soon. And then there was a pandemic, and people were dying because of statements that weren't true. And my inner journalist was getting, a little agitated at this point. And then we had another election and an insurrection, and people were not seeing through it. And I no longer could be a truth-denying denier. One of my impetuses for talking about this subject today is my realization this summer that I am no longer shocked or even surprised at blatantly false statements. They're just part of our world today. We see them all the time. In fact, they're more common than mud here in our dry area of the world. False news is not new, as people who have been shunted to the margins of our society already know. However, its exponential rise is headline and study-worthy, and there are many, many people in many, many fields, including journalism and psychology, studying to find out why this is happening right now. In Psychology Today, one author, a cognitive neuroscientist, points out that not only is there a rise in conspiracy theories and other forms of false news, to make worse, he says, those peddling fake news have accused relatively legitimate media channels of being the source of false information, confusing people about what they need to know. The article concludes that the rise in stress and anxiety has made people much more susceptible to false news. In a faith where, as I've said, the search for truth and meaning has a basic principle and has been for over 40 years, this seems a worthy focus for today. Not only does this rise of epidemic of false news threaten our world and our public life, it is also leading to more personal division and isolation and despair. This is happening in part because misinformation leads us to act as a society. The American Civil Liberties Union is tracking 506 bills they label as anti-LGBTQ, with many of them aimed at restricting the rights of transgender people. False news has many implications: confusion, risky decision-making, bad decision-making. It's also tied to the rise of extremism. And it makes sense that it is tied to the vulnerability caused by stress. This natural tendency, Al-Karian says, to accept false news as a face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary is a psychological phenomenon known as confirmation bias, and it's found often in individuals suffering from anxiety who see the world as a dangerous place, which makes them defensive
and less open to the information they find threatening. Now, a source I find credible is the Pew Foundation research. Their study in 2014, before things got worse, found that already there was a lot of partisan animosity and that it was growing, and that increasingly there was more participation in public dialogue by people at what they called the U-shaped pattern, with higher levels of engagement on the right and the left of the ideological spectrum and lower levels in the center. Here's the thing, though. False news continues to endanger us in these times. And as I was looking for credible sources for this discussion, because it seemed like a really good one to check my facts on, as I do every time, but this one in particular, an article in Nature Journal caught my eye, and it documented what many are saying, that false news has absolutely nothing to do with facts or countering facts. It has everything to do with feelings, especially fear and anxiety and isolation. Too many of us have entered in with the best of intentions into discussions with people we truly love who are under the grip of false news with a whole quiver full of facts, hitting the bullseye one and again and again and again, only to have each arrow make its target and then bounce off to lie on the ground unnoticed. So how do we interrupt this cycle? First, I would suggest with ourselves, by making sure that in our own stress and anxiety, what we are passing on in our conversations is informed. To get our information from a variety of sources, there is an easy way that we tend to blame social media for everything now. And yes, social media can increase the kind of media of kind of identity flocking that can keep this and grow this. But we cannot blame this all on social media, which has actually, in some cases, brought more information. We are in the grips of forms of artificial intelligence that mean it's more easy to create realistic depictions of people saying things they never said. And yet, the question is, where are we getting our information? We need to think about that. If we are in here, let's say, an MSNBC watcher, I'm not asking you to go watch Fox News. I'm asking you to perhaps check out CNN sometimes as well. If you're getting your news only from TikTok, I'm suggesting you look for some other sources. And if you only read the New York Times, maybe you want to go on social media and see what they're saying there. It's just important that we do that. And then when we make a mistake, as we all will do, that we correct it wherever we made it. Perhaps, if the root is fear and anxiety, most important is our own spiritual care. And if that word makes you rankle from some kind of way, then what I want to say, what I mean by it in this particular time, is to care for that which sustains the spark of life and curiosity in us when we feel overwhelmed. There are places and things you can do in this very community that in this particular season, in this particular world, I hope you will consider, like Vespers and Breath and Spirit and our community dinner this week, like our harvest meal 2 Fridays from now, like singing with the choir for the holidays, like coming and sitting and talking with somebody about a concern you have at our Justice Sunday, just making connections. It really matters. As individuals, we can't stop the proliferation of false news and the sticky problems like the one Sharon put before us, the one she put before us. But what we can do is remember that we have agency to control what we do in our own lives. May our inner peace and our continued actions for a more truth-holding world guide our words in these troubled times.
Please rise and body your spirit for 403, Spirit of Truth, of Life, of Power. We will do it twice. Spirit of Truth, of Life, of Power.
we extinguish our chalice with these words from Lao Tzu. And I did check, these are actually fairly verifiable words from Lao Tzu. The words of truth are always paradoxical. So let us take the many truths that are within our hearts and any spirit of peace and connection that we may have had, and let's extend it to those that we encounter in the days ahead. And let us go in the spirit of peace.